You may be familiar with swatting, the dangerous trend where someone calls in a fake threat that's allegedly happening at a home or a business, all to trigger a police response. Now we are coming across more and more computer-generated swatting calls, like the one that forced a shelter-in-place order at Grove City College on Sunday. Joining us now to offer his expertise is former CIA hacker and cybersecurity expert Eric Cole. Thank you for joining us here live.
My pleasure.
Yes, so swatting is when someone calls in one of these fake threats. How does this happen? What is a computer-generated swatting tactic?
So the computer generation makes it much harder to track because we've always had swatting in the past, but if I as an individual called up a fake 911, you could trace it back to my home, you could trace it back to my phone number, and I would get arrested and prosecuted. But the problem with computer-based swatting and AI, it can actually sound real, look real, but you can fake the phone number. So now they can go in and call in these threats like what happened this weekend, but you can't trace it back to an individual and you can't prosecute anyone for doing the false advertisement.
Yeah, we're seeing that there are, paid services where people can just order these fake threats and get them to be carried out. Do you think that this is something that the FBI, the CIA has on their radar, knowing your experience?
They do, but the problem we have with a lot of these cyber attacks is they're actually set up and generated outside of the country. So one of the big automated swatting companies where you can go in and order these swats or these hits anywhere from $50 to $500, depending on who you're targeting, are actually coming and being run out of Russia. And the problem is it's not illegal in Russia to target the United States, and we have no extradition treaty. So the frustration we have is we work with the FBI, we know who they are, we know where they're located, but because they're outside of the country, there's not a lot we can do to shut them down.
Yeah, would you consider this cyber terrorism of the new era? Is there anything that schools and businesses can do to protect themselves a little bit better? Because it sounds like this is something that's very hard to fend off.
It's very hard to defend, and it's increasing exponentially. Last year, we saw maybe a handful of these computer-generated swats. This year, we're seeing 20 to 30 a month just because they're so easy. But the problem you have is the only way to protect against them is to add a delay factor. So now the question is, if 911 gets an alert that there's a shooting at a school, they could go in and do a callback, they could do a verification, and they can go in and determine whether it's real or not. But that would cause a 5 to 7 minute delay. And the question is, if that was a real threat, and there was a real shooting, and that was your children involved, you wouldn't want a 5 to 7 minute delay. So we're really at this dilemma that anything we can do to try to minimize, prevent it from happening, actually puts people at risk if it is really a true threat.
Is there any type of software or any type of tools that people can purchase to protect their businesses that would be able to firewall, and protect from the AI bots or whatever these are, these calls?
Yeah, the unfortunate reality is, because if you're targeted, you have no way of knowing. So if somebody decides they don't like my business and they know my address, they could go in right now without me knowing it, without any protection, call 911 and say, there's a bomb at Eric's office at the address, or there's a shooting and you need to send SWAT. And the problem is, I have no idea that's happening until they actually show up. Now, one of the things we're working with law enforcement, as you said, is a callback verification. So what if I register with 911 with a authorized phone number? So now if somebody calls up and claims there's a shooting at my address, they have my cell number, they could call it and verify and validate whether it's true or not. So we are adding these software steps in. But as you can imagine, getting companies to register takes time, energy, and effort, so it won't happen overnight.
Definitely something everyone needs to work on and be aware of, especially the government as well. Hopefully they're working on some things behind the scenes. Thank you so much for joining us, Eric. Really appreciate your time and expertise.
Thank you for having me.